Hello and welcome to Handgun Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Bachad from the Wild Woods of Central Maine, and this is your home for all the news, information, and discussion in the handgunning world. This week, we talk about gun show powder purchases and future collectibles. So as always, Handgun Radio is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. Please check out the Patriot Patch Company for their awesome patches and other high-quality items. Visit patriotpatch.co for more information. And as always, shop Amazon using our affiliate link, firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. And weird, if you wanted to help support Handgun Radio, how would you do it?
I would go and listen to our future collectibles thing. I would buy a bunch of those like future collectible guns and then donate them to Ryan and I. And we promise not to spend them on drugs.
Or you could go to firearmsradio.tv/pledge and click on HGR. There might be a bunch of different pledge levels there that you could pick from, and we'd really appreciate that. And don't pay attention to whatever Weird said. So,
what are you talking about? Of course you pay attention to what I've said. That is a really good way to help us out. You're saying that wouldn't help you out?
How about we try this again and see what you did this week?
I did a lot of cooking and cleaning.
Did you do anything in firearms?
I didn't get a chance to go out to the range this week. No. I mean,
what was your kill ratio with your bug assault this weekend?
I definitely killed. I shot a fly on my neighbor's fence. I don't know if you remember. He's got a big white, one of these white vinyl fences, and I shot the bug, and it left a big old splatter mark on the fence. It was awesome.
Oh no, that's awesome. Yeah,
I think it was I don't know again, the biologist in me was like, I should look this up. I think it might be whatever the compound is that they use because it was red. It might have been the chemical on the back of their eye that they used to see.
I mean, I remember using that thing to shoot ants with, and it was pretty messy. Sometimes.
Yeah, and they've got a different one. They've got a lawn and garden one that is not for indoor use that will evidently do a whole lot more damage. I wish I had it now that I've got this wasp nest.
You have a wasp nest now?
Yeah, didn't you see it?
No,
it was just starting up when you guys got here. It wasn't really all that bad, but it's pretty bad now. It's up underneath the eave of my house, and I can't get to it with poison. And so ever so often I get bored, I just start shooting them.
Oh man, we had a garbage can that was out back of the house that we were going to get rid of. It had a wasp nest.
That was so Maine, by the way. Out back the house.
Out back the house, we had a garbage can that someone was going to get rid of. And apparently there was a wasp nest in it because someone went to move it, and all of a sudden they were surrounded by about 30 of them.
Oh, they get nailed?
A couple times. They went running.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant. But yeah, I was like, I need a bug assault. And we had a fly running around the house too.
Yeah, especially if you're moving. You get tons of flies in the house. The bug assault, the indoor variety is really good for that because it doesn't really throw that much for all the damage it does. It really is like less than a pinch of salt. And so it's like you could really go like crazy with it and, sweep up with a broom.
So I went to the Augusta, Maine gun show this weekend. There were a few deals, mostly 22 long rifle, around $40 per 1,000.
That's pretty good.
What you've seen it for? Yeah, it's pretty good. Ended up buying a pound of Trail Boss powder for $19 because I am setting up my reloading press back at the house now. So now that we moved into the house, I actually can set up my reloading press back down on the bench that I had it on before, when I lived here before, and I can get back to reloading like I did before because I actually used to reload pretty frequently. So,
yeah, that's nice. You could do like smaller batches, just like quickly go and just bang out 50 rounds.
And I have a bunch of semi-wad cutter 158 grains for 38 special. Or 357 Magnum, and I have a bunch of Trail Boss too, so I can just make a bunch of target loads and have fun with them.
Nice.
And wintertime's coming, so I'm not going to be out shooting that much. So that's why I kind of figured I should buy that pound of powder.
Yeah, well, it's always good to have powder.
So, what is your drink segment this week, Weird?
So I bought a bottle of Galliano, and I was actually looking for something. I've got a for those familiar with Booker's Bourbon, they come in these little pine boxes, and I've got one just sitting here in my office. I want to get another one. I'm going to put it in my safe and jack up the shelf system that's in my safe so I can get an extra shelf at the bottom of my pistol safe. So I was actually at the liquor store to do stuff related to guns, which was buy myself my expensive bottle of bourbon for quote unquote for the pine box that it comes in. But I bought a bottle of Galliano, and first up, gotta say, neat stuff. I would argue that it is very similar to green chartreuse in the fact that it's got a lot of anise flavor to it, but it's not like, Pernod or Ouzo or the other, anisets that are like chewing on a black jelly bean. It's got some licoricey flavor to it, but it's not overpowering, and a lot of spiciness. It's certainly got that rich vanilla note to it that they talk about. And no, Ryan, I did not make a Harvey fucking Wallbanger because that's gross. I instead made a Yellowbird, which is, I guess you could say it's a daiquiri variation. It uses 2 ounces of rum, 1 ounce of lime juice, 1 ounce Galliano, and 1 ounce triple sec. And to spice it up a little, they said white rum, and I used my Bacardi Silver, which is just kind of my go-to white rum. It's cheap, it's fine, but it's fairly dull. And I found the drink, if you make it that way, it's going to be a really good drink, but it was a little on the dull side for me. So I went for I made it once with an aged rum, which was really good. And I've got from Grand 10 Distillery here in Boston, their overproof rum, which is really, really good. And I'm having it with that now, and a little bit of orange bitters, and that is delicious. So it's a good drink.
That sounds pretty delicious. Weird.
It's pretty good.
You sent me a picture of your mint julep you made the other day.
I was hot. It was it's New England fall. It goes from being really, really cold to really, really hot. And so my daughter fell down for a nap, and I'm like, I'm hot, and was doing a bunch of work around the house, and I'm like, I'm hot and sweaty. I need a nice cool drink. And so I made myself a mint julep because I still got mint.
And that must have been where you thought of our main topic, future collectibles. Look at that segue. How was that? That was pretty good.
Especially since you're going to explain how the heck you got there.
Future collectibles.
Yes.
We've talked about this before a little bit in different episodes, but never specifically about this topic.
Yeah.
I think
these are guns that are around that you can still get for what I would consider very reasonable prices. And yet I think that because of what they are, some of their importance in history, and the fact that they aren't making them anymore might make them, shoot up in price. And I think a couple of these are going to shoot up like very soon. So this is kind of for the overall, if you're going to be a collector, collect what you love, because let's face it, like when you start collecting, you're not doing it to flip guns. But at the same time, if you like guns and want to do a little investment sort of thing, these are good. These are good choices.
Well, like me at one time, I thought about collecting all like the top break 32 Smith & Wesson, like the cheapies that you saw in the late 1800s. And I thought that was, going to be a really interesting route to take.
That'd be a cool collection if you had them.
But I mean, I've only found a few here and there. So, and the problem is, those guns weren't made of great materials, so they generally probably didn't stand up over time. And that's why you don't see as many of them, and they're also.
I gotta imagine a real minty one is going to be really expensive.
What's that?
Are some that are in really good shape really expensive? Weird. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you there.
Oh no, I adjusted my chair. I put it on mute.
Oh,
But I was saying the 32s are the really minty ones. Are they really cheap, or are they really expensive?
More expensive than you would expect for what they are.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're looking at stuff like Smith and Wesson 32s, then you're getting a little bit more up there. I'm talking just like those top breaks by Ivor Johnson.
Any top break 32, so
right.
like the H&Rs and stuff
right.
like that, the Ivor Johnsons. I got you.
And all the little no-name companies like, Ironclad Corporation and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that still would have been an interesting collection. I mean, I think a lot of those are probably on there. I mean, I guess I didn't put it in the show notes, but I wonder Ivor Johnsons, those are going to start shooting up.
So the first one that I really like is the Smith and Wesson Gen series.
Yeah, they're classic autos, I think, is another way to refer to these. But these are the metal framed Smith and Wesson semi-autos. These are the pre-M&Ps, pre-Sigmas.
So we've seen on J&G sales.
Yeah.
Like these guns come in from different countries and different okay, we're selling off our old inventory to make money for new inventory.
I've seen a bunch of them, I think, are coming from domestic police forces, because a ton of police forces in specifically the 90s, a lot of these police forces had, like Portland, Maine had for the longest time was carrying 40 Smith & Wesson third gens. So yeah, these guns come in big batches, and they're really reasonably priced, and they're Smith & Wessons. So, I mean, Smith & Wessons are, so one thing that led me to this thing is Smith & Wesson revolvers used to be fairly affordable. And now, as a general rule, any classic Smith & Wesson revolver is getting very expensive, kind of like Colt Pythons. Colt Pythons go for astoundingly high prices. And same with a lot of the Colt double action revolvers, very, very high prices they demand. And then the Colt collectors went, well, these Colts are out of my price range, so they started moving over to Smith & Wesson. So the Smith & Wesson started shooting up. I think the Smith & Wesson name is worth something, and with these you've got first gen, second. There's 3 generations of these guns. And they came in every caliber under the sun, and all sorts of different barrel lengths. They were somewhere in stainless, some were in blued steel, some were in aluminum, and they haven't had some that had frame decockers, some were double action only. It's a really, really deep well to collect from. And so if that's something you want to start collecting, that's a neat one to get into. And I can't imagine it's not going to start shooting up in value.
Well, like one of the ones that I used to like was the Chief Special Semi-Auto.
Oh yeah, those are cool. Those are the size of a car
right now. Yeah, looking that up right now. I want to say they were a single stack about the size of the car. Mm-hmm. See if there's anything in Gunbroker here.
Yeah, they definitely came in 9 and 45. I'm trying to remember. Like that was before the car PM45 came out. I think that was like the smallest semi-auto 45 you could get.
The CS40.
Oh, they did make them in 40.
Yeah. CS9.
You got a price for it right now?
CS9. Let's see if that comes up. Gunbroker CS9. $339.
It's reasonable.
That's not bad at all.
Especially since those were a little bit more expensive than just the standard run of the mills.
That's got a slide mounted safety and decocker. Well, actually, I don't think it's decocker, just a safety. It's got a flush mounted hammer.
It's a decocking safety.
Even with the flush mounted hammer?
I believe so.
Or would that be DAO?
Oh, some of them might were DAO. I think. Well, they came in a bunch of different variations. So
I mean, you need your decoder ring to get through all the semi-autos.
Well, since you're right there, look up a just the 5906. That's just your third gen. It's going to be a relatively new, but they're not making them anymore. So what are they going for?
$549.
Yeah, that's going up. That's starting to get up there, but
couple for $350, then another one for $529. But generally between $400 and $550.
Yeah, I really think those are like the $200 Smith & Wesson Model 10s we used to find.
Yeah,
you'd go into a gun shop, and there in the case was not brand new but fairly tight Smith & Wesson Model 10, and you could walk away with that with sometimes under $200 out the door, and you cannot find that anywhere now.
So what about the Glock first gen autos? That
is, I think, going to be. I'm already starting to see Glock first gens selling as a collector's item. I mean, Glock just released the 5th generation,
right?
And so you've got all of these guns. I mean, it's one of the most popular handguns in America, one of the most popular duty weapons in the world, really. And
by far.
Oh yeah, by far. And then so you've got that pedigree and that history. They're insanely popular now, and they all started somewhere, and they don't make the first gens anymore. So, and they probably made
the Gen 5 is probably as close to the first gen that they're making now.
Yeah, which is also kind of cool on that. So like your first gen, which I think was just the 17 and the 19, and of course
I think so. Yeah,
but the 18, we're not getting the. If you find an 18, it's a good collector's value.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just the 17 and the 19. I don't think they had the baby Glocks yet.
No, I think the baby Glocks came out in like the 90s, didn't they? Early 90s.
Nope.
So yeah, those are guns that are going to start going up in price. And they already are. Like, that's one of those ones of the keep an eye out, because you'll find them at good prices, and you'll find them at what I think will become the new norm. And so if you find one at a good price, grab one. And even if you don't like Glocks, grab one and flip it.
I mean, it's still going to be a good gun. Like, granted, you won't be able to have, you don't have the rail on those early gen Glocks, but if you're someone who doesn't use a weapon mounted light, that's not a big deal to you.
Nope. And also, I mean, to be fair, we're also talking, they're not making any of the second gens either. And the second gens, they're getting pretty old. And so the second gens, I think, are also going to start shooting up in price.
So I also think about the Ruger P series, because I've had quite a bit of experience with those. I had one person who asked me, "Hey, I have this semi-auto. I don't know how to clean it. Could you take it? Could you clean it for me?" And it was the first time I had ever taken down a P series handgun from Ruger, and they're built like tanks. They're boat anchors.
Well, they're built like tanks. They were in the running for a bunch of different police and military duty guns. I believe they were in the running with the Beretta 92 for the replacement of the 1911, and they've been like in a bunch of movies, of which both of us immediately thought of what?
True Lies.
True Lies. Yeah. Arnold's carrying I don't know all the names of the P series, but he was carrying one of the 45s.
P89, I believe.
Yeah.
No. 45 was the P95, right?
Maybe
that's
P90.
why we have IMFTB.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the P90.
You might be right.
You looking it up?
KP90.
Yep.
The Ruger KP90 and 45 ACP. So it looks basically like a P89, but it's just in 45 auto.
Yep. And then later on, they came out with in the like 2000s, they started coming out with polymer framed versions. And so
you had stuff like the P345, which was what they came out with, what you're talking about. And that's the kind of stuff that was as close to that SR9 that Ruger had later on.
Yes. And then as soon as the SR series came out, they just dumped them.
Right. Exactly.
And so there's another reason why it's collectible. Again, when it's when it's not, when they're not being made anymore, and they've got a heritage and pedigree. And these are good guns. They're nice guns. I mean,
they're very heavy, but I mean,
they're heavy and they're
overbuilt.
large, but that doesn't make them bad.
They're good guns.
They're absolutely fine guns. And they were made to be affordable. They were made. I mean, Ruger was great with their use of castings. And so they were made with a lot of really good castings, and that makes them very affordable. And I think at some point someone's going to realize, man, these are kind of cool guns. And these are a lot of them are pretty old guns now, as far as, a lot of people that can legally carry guns, this gun was made before I was born. So,
I mean, I've always been impressed with them whenever I've used them.
Yeah. So I can't imagine them not starting to shoot up in price.
So the Walther P99, this was one you put on here, Weird. And why is that?
That's kind of a dark horse. That was just kind of a speculation, but I kind of wanted to talk about my thinking behind that. Is so officially from Walther, they still make them. I don't think they do. I don't think they're making them anymore, because they're making the PPQ and all the creeds and the other variations of their polymer framed guns. But another interesting thing is that the patent is in public domain for the P99. So a bunch of other companies, most notably the Janik and the Magnum Research, I believe it's the Eagle 9, but it might be the Baby Desert Eagle. I forget which one it is. I think it's the Eagle 9, is the Walther P99 clone. And there might be a few others floating around out there.
MR9. I think
MR9
was MR9 Magnum Research.
Oh, they changed it again. Well, I mean, so there's another thing is I think they might have made it as an Eagle 9 for a little while, but within the P99 there's a bunch of variations. They made them in full size. They made them in compact. They made them double action, single action. They made them in double action only. And I'm trying to see if there's any other interesting things, but there was also like the Smith & Wesson 99, because Smith & Wesson was making parts for Walther for their American imports. And so Smith & Wesson,
that was the weird one.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that one was a little bit funky.
It's kind of a lame P99 as far as I was concerned. I'm not the hugest fan of the P99. It's not a bad gun at all. I mean, nothing I'm talking about here is going to be a bad gun. But I think it's got a lot of significance. It's been being copied a lot. So to have an original,
my perception of the P99 was like, when I was a kid, I was a big James Bond fan, and that was you had the
when you were a kid. We're both huge James Bond fans,
but I'm a little bit younger than you are. And when you had the Glock, but it wasn't like it was super prominent in a lot of movies. And then all of a sudden you see Tomorrow Never Dies. James Bond has the Walther P99, this polymer handgun. And I remember thinking like that was the polymer handgun. Like I remember being a kid and being like, I want a Walther P99 when I get older. I'm going to go buy one. And then the more I learned, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to go buy one. And then I learned about Glock and everything else.
Yep. But yeah, so yeah,
my perception was that Walther was the polymer handgun at the time. I don't know. Maybe I just
it was pretty popular in Massachusetts because of the Smith & Wesson contract and all of that, and it was one of the few polymer handguns that was available to Massachusetts residents at in the late 90s, early 2000s, or is it?
So it's a New England thing.
It might be a New England thing. So they're cool guns. They're neat guns. I don't like the trigger on them whatsoever. But they came in a bunch of different variations, and then on top of that, there's a bunch of different clones, copies, and licenses. So I can't say that I definitely think they're going to start shooting up in value. Oh, and again, also it's been it's been supplanted by a bunch of the more modern versions of it, being like the PPQ and the Creed and all that, which are, I mean, vaguely similar guns, very, very close. And so I think that might be something that'll shoot up in value. But again, that's my dark horse pick.
So the Remington R51, and for all the wrong reasons, this might be a future collectible.
Yeah, I thought about putting this in. I mean, so why did you put this in, Ryan?
I handled the original R51 at NRA show, I think 2015. I wasn't impressed by the way it felt, and I was really excited about the gun because I was someone who was a real big admirer of the Colt 1908 and 1903 and 32 Auto. And that gun not living up to what I thought it was going to be was a pretty big disappointment. And I think that even with the Gen 2 model, they didn't really achieve what they wanted to with it.
Yeah, it's a lofty goal. It's a small single stack 9mm, and they made it in single action only without an external safety. Like that's, and it's based off of a very, very classic handgun.
Well, I mean, and you think about it, I really admire that they tried to do the Pedersen action and see what they could do with it. But it didn't seem to work with 9mm the way they had hoped it would.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate, but that may just be the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm gonna argue with you that I don't think the R51 is going to be collectible. Like, I mean, one of the other guns that I thought about on this list was your Steyr. So, I mean, it's not just because the R51's a disappointment in the gun world, but the Steyr, you've got the first generation, and now they're just on the second generation of the Steyrs, right? There's no third gen, is there?
I think there's only 2 generations.
Yeah. But they came in 9, they came in 40. You've got, a bunch of different size variations, and now there's 2 generations of it. That's all and they're good, and they're great guns. So that has a lot of markings of a collectible, but they're really kind of the quiet B-side Glock. They're not super well known. A lot of people don't even know that Steyr makes, they might be aware of the rifles that they made for World War II, but they may not know that, Steyr's still around and they're making handguns. They'll know about the Steyr AUG, but they're not necessarily going to know about the pistols. And so I don't see those shooting up in value. And the same thing with the R51. I see some collectors, some people who are interested in collecting and or accumulating guns, grabbing a first generation R51, especially since they've got to be fairly rare, because I think most of them are probably destroyed. But overall, I don't see there being a demand. I don't see a lot of people really going out of their way and losing sleep over not being able to get a first gen R51. So I'm going to argue that I don't think they're going to start shooting up in value.
So what do you think about the Ruger Security 6? Because that's something you added as well.
I think a buddy of mine, actually a mutual buddy of ours, Waldo from Cabela's has one of these, and it's a really nice revolver. It's, I think it's right up there with like the Smith & Wesson Model 10 or the Model 19 or all that. It's, it's a Ruger, so it's a little bit more rugged, a little bit more robust over the more elegant lines of the Smith & Wesson.
But it's not as big.
It's not like a GP 100.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit more of a felt revolver.
Yeah. But again, this is the gun that the GP 100 replaced. And you've got a bunch of different chamberings. There were some in 38, most of them are in 357 Magnum. Some are in 38 Special, some were in 9mm, but those are fairly rare. And you've got the security 6, you've got the speed 6, and what was that last one? And the service 6. And so all of these different variations, and they came in a bunch of barrel lengths, all of these different variations can make for a very, very collectible firearm. And I wasn't sure if they had started shooting up yet in value. And so I went on Gun Broker and looked them up, and you can get a bunch of them for like in the mid to low 300s, which for a rock solid 357 Magnum from a reputable manufacturer, yeah, that's beautiful. So
yeah,
I cannot imagine these. Again, they're not making them anymore. They're going to start drying up. I cannot imagine these not shooting up in value.
So finally, before we head into the listener emails, this was what I suggested. With all the World War I curiosity, with Battlefield 1 and all that stuff going on, the 32 ACP handguns that are super cheap, which could be rubies, could be anything from Spain, could be Colt 1903s, basically anything you see in 32 Auto that is featured on C and Arsenal from our friend Othias.
Love Othias. But yeah, I think this is a great pick. I mean, it is. I mean, I think the Colt 1903s and 1908s, they are shooting up in value. Not as fast as, say like the Pythons, but they are definitely going up in value. Just because that Colt brand has it. But yeah, Ruby is a great example of a pistol that was virtually unknown, but yeah, now that you can get that in your weapons loadout in various video games, people are going to start wondering about that and having interest and wanting to get their hands on one. Right. And 32 ACP is kind of a lesser known cartridge, kind of an oddball. So I think that the interest in it's a little dwindly, but again, these are solid pieces of history. So I do see there being a collector's market for them.
So finally, listener emails. So we have a couple here for the Dream handgun. We're still going on with that. Weird.
I love it. Like let's have this be a segment for every show.
So this is from Thomas. Probably not my dream handgun, but one I think would be cool for concealed handgun would be an N-frame Smith & Wesson or Ruger Red Hawk in 2 3/4 inch barrel in 327 Federal Magnum with a minimum 9-round, but preferably 10-round cylinder cut for moon clips in stainless steel.
That is cool. I definitely like the idea of revolvers that hold a lot of rounds.
I bet you would have to be 9 rounds though to get enough steel in between each chamber.
Yeah. 327 Magnum is no slouch. It's a really cool gun. I mean, the neat thing about those is they were getting, J frame or SP 101s that held 6 instead of 5. So you get that extra shot in there, and it'll go toe to toe with 357 Magnum. I mean, unfortunately, the cartridge didn't catch on very much, and it's kind of a dead cartridge as far as I'm concerned.
It's unfortunate because it really is a decent round.
But I mean, when you've got stuff like the Smith & Wesson 628 and 328 with having 8 shots of 357 Magnum, that is so cool, and having 9 shots of 327 is equally as cool.
And then we have Anthony, who has a question, and I haven't been able to get an answer on this yet. And I was hoping, Weird, you might have some insight. SIG P320. Do you guys have any information on the SIG P320 voluntary recall program? Cannot get a straight answer from them.
I haven't looked too deep into it because I don't have a 320, but I mean, it's a voluntary recall. So this is obviously about the drop safety issue, of the fact that 320 dropped directly on the back of the slide could impart enough momentum onto the trigger to pull the trigger all the way. So it's because it's got a fairly heavy trigger that's very much like the hammer fired 250 that'll go through, that will pick up enough inertia that it could in fact pull that light, sweet striker fired action.
Okay, so I am at sigsauer.com/support/P320-voluntary-upgrade/ and this is the P320 Voluntary Upgrade Program. It says the P320 Voluntary Upgrade Program is a Sig Sauer initiative to upgrade P320 pistols at no additional cost. The upgrade will consist of a lighter trigger, sear, and striker, while additionally adding a mechanical disconnector. And then it has multiple different options: U.S. domestic consumer, U.S. commercial dealer, and U.S. and Canadian military and law enforcement. So it looks like there's a FAQ, frequently asked questions, and how to apply for the upgrade here on the website. So I will put the link to this in the show notes for your convenience. So it'll be Handgun Radio 179.
But it is interesting that they're making it voluntary.
Why would that be?
That I don't know. Maybe they, well, I bet the reason is because this is the drop test that got the gun to discharge is technically a non-standard drop test. So it could be because it's still technically a drop safe gun, just per the rules lawyer definition. That maybe they didn't feel the need to make it mandatory and make a big deal out of it.
Okay.
But either way, I mean, you should either send it in or replace the trigger yourself with just really all you need is a lighter shoe. Just the actual part of the trigger that's outside the gun and you pull. That was the issue, is it's got too much mass to it.
Excellent. So with that, we'll head into the wrap-up section and close out the show. Don't forget to shop Brownells using our affiliate link. Head to firearmsradio.tv and click the affiliate link in the upper right-hand corner. Be sure to go like Handgun Radio on Facebook and share it with your friends. And leave us a review on iTunes. Listen to all the great shows on the Firearms Radio Network, and be sure to visit the Firearms Insider for reviews and more awesome content. Be sure to check out the Firearms Radio Network on YouTube. And Weird, where can people find you?
You can find me at my blog, which is weirdworld.com, and you can also find me on the Squirrel Report and the Gun Blog Variety Cast.
We appreciate you coming on, as always.
Well, it's always fun to be on.
And until next week, have fun and safe shooting.